So as you can imagine, if we always try to catch and handle the error immediately, that's going to be a lot of match statements, as we saw up here in this example. In this case, we can propagate the error up the call stack, and we can use this by using a question mark operator. And we can use a question mark to any expression that produces a result. On success, it unwraps the result to get the success value inside. But on error, it immediately returns from the enclosing function and passes the error result up the call chain. So let's look at how we can test this. So there's a couple of items we need to bring into scope. So we're going to use the file system and then rename. And then we're going to use standard IO and then error. So inside of main, we're going to actually call a function called let test equal open file. And now we want to create a function down here called open file, and it's going to return a result of either a file or an error. And now inside here we can say let file equal file open error.txt, and then on OK we just want to send back the file. And I want to put a question mark here because that's the whole purpose of this. So this question mark is how we can propagate the error up. So now if we run cargo run, everything looks good because we didn't use the test variable. So we'll say test.unwrap. And now if we run it, we see that our error was propagated up. So it says result unwrap on error value. So our error was indeed propagated up. But if we make this correct and run it, everything runs cleanly. So it's just a much easier way of handling these errors without having an enormous amount of match statements to kind of go along with them. So another example that we can look at is renaming a file, because renaming a file can fail as well. So we're going to have to return a result, and we'll just give it an empty, generic, and an error that can be returned. So we'll say let file equals rename, because we brought that into scope, and we'll say we'll rename from error.txt to renamed.txt, and then we will return the OK there, and we need to put our question mark there. So now we'll say here, we actually don't even have to do this. We'll say rename file, rename file dot unwrap. And now that we know that we have an error.txt created, we expect error.txt to be renamed to rename.txt file. And as you can see, that is what happens. So we cannot typically use the question mark operator in the main method because there is not anything for it to be passed up to. So in most cases, you would want to use expect in the main thread. But all in all, this is really all there is to error handling, aside from being able to generate our own custom errors, which we'll do later on in this course. But for now, that is practically all there is to it for general error handling.